Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Once again, we're here for Ask the Cheeseman Live. I'll just check before we start whether everything's functioning okay and whether we can see what the heck is going on. Okay, we have a picture. Fantastic. There's a bit of a lag, but that's okay. All right. Well done. Thank you for all the early birds. So, g'day to Henry, Kitty Cats, David, Charles, Kim, she's on time, and Montana. How are you all? Lovely to see you here once again. We'll just wait until the stragglers catch up because the notice has only just gone out. Well, I just received it anyway, but we'll see how that goes. Okay. All good. All right, fantastic. So that's all working. Let's kick off the show, shall we? Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. G'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. So welcome again to Ask the Cheeseman Live. This is episode 67. So 67 times I've been talking to you. That's incredible. Fantastic. And g'day to a few more here. We've got Hatter. Hopefully that's Hatter. Bethany, Kitty Cats again. Legendary Gaming Guy, Et Sprout, and David and Lancer made it as well. Fantastic. Looks like I'm having some issues. Maybe. No, it's all good. It's not. YouTube's doing some funny things to me. I'll just refresh my page. Okay. Some of the cool things that are going to be happening this week. We're going to be having a Cheshire taste test, which I haven't tried it yet. That's for tomorrow. I'm recording it. So that'll be fun. And as far as videos go, that's about it for this week, besides this live chat, of course. But the other thing I'm doing, as those of you who may not have saw this morning, I released a podcast episode, which I've decided to do every week now because I've got to record it for the audio part of it. So why not just put up a very quick and dirty video version as well, so that way it gets coverage in both audio and video. So that's pretty cool. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But this weekend, I'm going to be focusing on the book. So I'm going to be diligently writing the second volume, which is Keep Calm and Make More Cheese. So that should be good fun. I'm going to get stuck right into that. So I'm about a third of the way through. I've got all the recipes that I want to put in this book, but it keeps growing every week as I make a new cheese. So when to stop? So that's the hard part to decide. So anyway, lots of people there saying thank you and they love our videos. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Wendy says she has a Cheshire maturing as well, and it's due in a month. Okay, so let's kick off the questions. I don't see any just yet, but yep, if you got some, send them my way, and I'll see if I can answer them. Oh, g'day to Geordie. How are you? Okay. Oh, here we go. Charles said, I wanted to start my first cheese. I know the temps are important in the process. My concern is the ambient temp of my kitchen is around 83 to 85 Fahrenheit. Is that too hot? Should I watch out? What anything I should watch out for? 85. Hang on, let me convert that. Convert 83 Fahrenheit into Celsius. Oh, still Siri, why aren't you available? Oh no, we've got cats and dogs living together. Stop it. Right, let's try it now.
Let's check out the iTunes store.
Oh, I don't want to buy anything from the iTunes store. This is crazy. Right, work for me now. I'm going to give up. All right. I believe that's probably the high 20s for Celsius, which is what I use. I can't convert to Fahrenheit automatically. I've got to use Siri. 28. Thank you very much, Henry. You're a good man. 28 is not too hot for making cheese, and it's certainly not too hot for air drying. It'll probably air dry within about a day, so you won't have too many problems with that. So as soon as it's touch dry or it feels like a clammy handshake, that's the time, depending on the cheese that you're making, which you didn't mention there, that whether you air dry it or not. So once it's air dried, either wax it or vac pack it, or store it how it needs to be stored in the cheese fridge if you're making a natural rind cheese. Okay. Tarmok says, I recently gained more interest in cheese making. As someone with experience, how much do you think I have to spend to get a decent setup? Well, I actually did a video once, and I can't remember what it was, but it was around equipment you'll need for cheese making, and there are a lot of, depends on the cheese you make, of course, and how excited you want to get about it. But I found that the initial setup that I needed with all the equipment that I needed, it cost me about $200. But because the press price is thrown in there, the press was about $100. But these days, I would probably have made the press myself. Fairly simple to do. Whether it be a Dutch press or a simple spring press, I could have whipped that up myself instead of having to buy it and getting stuck into it straight away. So look, I reckon you could probably do it for as much or as little as $100 to get, all the stainless steel equipment that you need, and then probably $50 for the cultures and the rennet and that sort of stuff, if you're going to buy a few of those. So about below $200 Australian, which is about 150 US roughly. So hopefully that's okay. All right. Geordie says, I want to make Jarlsberg, but do I need to wax it, or will it mature with eyes in a maturation box? No. All right. So Jarlsberg, let me think. Now, I did have to wax this cheese because it's very hard to keep it controlled during the eye formation phase. So the eye formation phase is about 2 weeks at about 18 degrees Celsius. And you need to keep it at that temperature because any higher, then the holes just go crazy. The propionic shamani bacteria they put into the milk creates CO2 and creates the bubbles, which are really eyes within the cheese. It's better to wax it because that way you can actually see the cheese expanding and you can reseal it as necessary. If you vacuum pack it, you're going to inhibit so it's going to squeeze the cheese, so you're not going to get any eye development, or they're going to be very tiny little eyes within the cheese. So I highly recommend waxing it. And the first time it splits, just re-wax it again, and you should be fine. I've made it 2 times now and had success every time. It is a great cheese. And I've had many reports of other cheese makers who have followed my recipe that they haven't had any trouble with it. So, yeah, so definitely wax it. Not vacuum pack it, and don't mature it naturally because you just get all sorts of funky molds over it, especially at that high temperature, and you won't be able to control it. Okay. Lancer says, I made you a petite blue and I realised I used 2 gallons of milk, but only used the culture amount for a 1 gallon recipe. What is this going to do to the cheese? Well, it probably will have which is probably okay, slow lactic bacteria development because you've got a little bit less culture, and you would have used the same amount of time for the recipe that needs 1 gallon, which is 7.6 litres. Look, it may go okay. It probably won't be as acidic as the first batch you probably made. Oh, yeah, the first one made per recipe was perfect. But it'll be a bit milder, I think. So have a look at that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. But like I said, you'll probably have a lot less lactic bacteria development, and it'll be less tart, which may be a good thing because it is quite a strong little cheese. Nice and creamy in the middle, but it's got that blue kick around the outside. Brian says, is there a difference to finding out the natural bacterium molds for different places around the world and the cheeses they make? A reference. There is a good book, actually. Hang on, I'll just... A good book. So this one here, which I don't know if there's a link online. Hang on, I'll put it this side. There we are. The Oxford Companion to Cheese. It is like the Bible of cheese. So this is crazy. A great book. It is that thick. So anything you want to know about cheese, it talks about areas where cultures come from. It's very hard. I've never seen a regional map of where cultures come from. I did watch a very interesting video around artisan cheesemakers in the Bay Area in California. And the lady that runs the Cowgirl Creamery says she noticed that they oversalted one of the cheeses, and Brevibacterium linens that love salt flourished in that area. And then they had another place where they made milk further down the coast and did the same thing, and there was no natural Brevibacterium linens that jumped on board and made the cheese into a lovely washed rind cheese. So there's no references other than this one, but I don't know how out of date it'll be. It's like an encyclopedia of cheese. So very interesting. Read that one if you want to know all things about cheese. Okay. Where are we up to? Let's have a look. Hopefully that helped, Brian. But the best thing to do, as I mentioned in my podcast episode this morning, is reach out to your local artisan cheesemakers because they're doing it for a living, and they may be able to help you or tell you or give you some information about that sort of thing. Okay. TDM says, hey, Gavin, have a few questions. When you cut the curds, what sort of device do you use? And did I make it myself or did I buy it? Well, guess what? The answer is no to all those questions. A friend, a fellow cheesemaker in Manitoba in Canada, made it for me and gifted it to me and sent it to me for just in acknowledgement of making all these cheese videos that I make. But I have seen quite a few good ones on Etsy. So check out Etsy, look for curd carter or curd harp. There are quite a few people making them. And I dare say they're probably a fair price. So go and check those out. Kitty Cat says, quick question. How bad is that black mold and could a quick scrub off keep the cheese edible? You look, black mold is fairly bad. And it has very deep roots, the mycelium for black mold. And it can sometimes produce toxic side effects, I suppose. So if it gets infected by black mold, I usually toss it, but usually the nose knows, if that makes sense. If it smells bad, then throw it, as in not smells like a normal cheese that's been ripening. But yeah, if it smells like it's gone off, then yeah, throw it. And you really can't scrub it off or cut it off, unfortunately. Thankfully, fingers crossed, I haven't had any issues with black mold in any of my cheeses. So yeah, thanks Wendy for that question. Montana says, I made provolone last week, just after your video, but I think I made it into a braid and it broke apart. How do I avoid this for next time? Thank you. How did it break apart? Is the question. If you made it into a long braid and then it snapped, it should have, well, it would have stretched all right. Maybe it's just too heavy. I'm not too sure how the braids are made when they make pasta filata cheese, but I certainly know that provolone, that that recipe really only does makes a large mass, and it's not for stretching like the mozzarella one, which is a different recipe indeed. Mozzarella, you'll find braids more for the mozzarella type cheese, which is a bit more flexible than what provolone is. Okay, next question's from Rolux2. I'm making a quadruple pepper jack right now. Any updates on your pepper jack? Well, it's sitting nicely in the cheese cave, and I'm turning it weekly in its vacuum packed bag. So that's about as much of an update as I can give it. I am going to cut it open at the 3-month mark, and I'll just tell you when it's ready. I've got it written down here somewhere in my logbook. Here we go. So the triple jack taste test will happen on the 16th of September this year. So keep an ear out for around that time. That's when we're going to cut into it, and I'm going to have some milk handy next to me. Hopefully it won't be too hot, and it'll be unpalatable. But yeah, I thought it was a good experiment. Take the pepper jack to the next level. That's pretty cool. Fernando says, "Hi Gavin, thanks for your videos. I don't have a wine cooler. Which other options do I have for maturing with temperatures between 10 and 16? Well, it depends on where you live too, I suppose. If it's a cold area, and you have a basement, then that could work. The first matured cheese, I actually made a Wensleydale and didn't have a cheese cave. Good thing was it was winter, and I found a cupboard that didn't get heated, so I put it into the cupboard on a pine board. And it was waxed. The cheese was waxed, so there was no issues. And it stayed around about 13 degrees Celsius. So that was a cupboard in the middle of the house, so it didn't get as warm as what some of the other rooms did. So that seemed to work. So there's a couple of suggestions. Dig yourself a root cellar. There's another suggestion. But look, there are plenty of cheeses that you can mature in the normal kitchen fridge. And in fact, there's a video, and if Kim wants to put it up soon, the one where it talks about beginner cheeses without a cheese fridge, and that'll help out Fernando there. Okay, you got something going on here. Lancer says, I'll do up a report and let you know. If you're not worried, I won't be either. Thank you. No problems at all. Kim's troll hunting. Good on you, honey. Geordie says, thanks for your information. I visited the Cheddar Gorge Cheese Company the other week. Sadly, it's the only cheddar made in cheddar, made with raw milk and added cultures. The vintage was amazing. Well worth a visit. In fact, I did go to that cheese factory back on a European vacation. Well, UK's not in Europe. It's part of it, I suppose. They don't want to be. But yeah, I went to Cheddar Gorge and went to the cheese factory there, and it is quite amazing. And I had some real cheddar cheese in Somerset, and it was absolutely amazing. Blew my mind. So that was pretty cool. Okay. Rolux says, my homemade cheese press, dirt cheap to make. Can't post images. Yeah, you can't, unfortunately. But yeah, so there is actually a video about do-it-yourself cheese presses as well. I reached out to the Facebook group that's quite active. It's called Learn to Make Cheese. And if you're not a member, I highly recommend that you pop over there. There's a lot of good cheese banter every single day, lots of posts, probably about 20 posts a day. So it's definitely worth popping over to that Facebook group. Again, it's called Learn to Make Cheese. That's all it is. And just search for that in Facebook, and they'll welcome you with open arms as a cheesemaker. Okay. Swifton says, "G'day, Gavin. Only just signed in. Well, while I have not yet eaten any of my Bel Paese, I think it was a success. Now I have to wait 3 weeks to try it out. The whey ricotta was not quite nice, though. Yeah, it's such a nice, simple cheese, Bel Paese. Um, being that you make it with uh, thermophilic culture and you don't have to press it, it presses under its own weight. Plus, you mature it in the cheese cave. Sorry, in the cheese cave, in the normal kitchen fridge. It's a delight to make, and it does taste really nice. Now, just a hint: while it's ripening, it does get a little bit tacky, so it does welcome a quick wash of a simple brine solution once a week, just while it's ripening in the fridge. So it'll stop it from getting messy. Um, yeah, it just feels tacky on the outside. That's all. So a quick wash that'll work. Okay. Where I'm up to, Kim. Very much. Yes, Kim is a good moderator. That's why we have her on. Okay. Lancer says he's reversed engineered Gavin's one. It only cost me $9 for a piece of hard maple. If you're good with tools, that is. Okay. Tal says I'm about to try making my first cheese. I'm finding it hard to source raw milk. I've heard that you can make cheese with powdered milk. Thoughts? No, don't make cheese with powdered milk. That's blasphemy. Um, if needs be, use pasteurized and homogenized milk, as long as it's not ultra pasteurized, and add some calcium chloride. Most of my recipes all have calcium chloride added to them, just in case you can't get your hands on unhomogenized milk. You don't have to use raw milk to make cheese, but it's better if you can have it, of course, because it makes good cheese. At a pinch, like I said, most of my cheeses are all made with pasteurized but unhomogenized, so that's creamline milk. It's been pasteurized. And I have made recently, I think, the triple pepper jack, I think, was made with pasteurized and homogenized milk. And that seems to be turning out okay. And in fact, as a starter culture, I use buttermilk. So I didn't even use any direct vat inoculated starter cultures. So fingers crossed it's not weeping anyway or anything crazy like that. It seems to be going okay. So it'll be interesting when I cut into that because most buttermilks, cultured buttermilks, actually have an aromatic mesophilic culture added to them, and bread, and that makes it into that um, rather gluggy mixture you call buttermilk. It's nice in pancakes and stuff like that. So don't make cheese with powdered milk. You can make yogurt with powdered milk, no problems at all. But that's about the texture you'll get if you try to make cheese with it. So that's a hint there. Towel, source out any other milk except that one. Oh, and the two to avoid are ultra pasteurized. Don't use that at all, won't set a curd. And UHT, ultra heat treated milk. That won't work either. Okay. Montana says, what cheese making videos can we expect soon? Okay, so there will be, of course, a Cheshire, and I think we've got some other taste tests coming up. Sorry, I'll just go back to my taste test page. We've got Double Gloucester coming up as well, which has been aged for a year, even though I did a taste test on it earlier. I kept half of that cheese and I wanted to mature it out to a year because it's kind of in the style of cheddar. It's a cheddar style sort of cheese. And I've done the blue cheddar. The next one's not really until late August. But I'm going to make a Oaxaca, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a string cheese. So I'm going to be making that sometime next week. And it's a string cheese that's wrapped into a ball. So it's very much like, looks like a ball of rubber bands, but it's white and it's cheese. It's used making raw milk, but I can't get hold of that, unfortunately. So I'll try my pasteurized, unhomogenized, and see what I can get out of that. So, as usual, I'll just be patient, add the cultures, let it acidify, see how I can get the curds down to a stretchable pH of about 5.3 to 5, and then we'll go from there. Some of the other ones that I want to make, I haven't quite made my mind up, but there are lots of cheeses that people keep suggesting. So I'm basically going to go through my list. Epoisse was one of the ones. I think that's how you pronounce it. Epoisse. I think that's how you pronounce it. Epoisse, something like that. Which is another stinky cheese. Very similar to Limburger and a brick cheese, but it's made in France instead. And another cheese that I was thinking, as I mentioned, Limburger. Apparently that's a lot smaller. We don't have that here in Australia, so I'm going to check it out and see if I can find a recipe for Limburger and get stuck into that, because apparently it's pretty popular there in the US, which is good because I like to make cheeses from different regions. Okay, cool. I hope that answered your question, Montana. John says, you're a top bloke. Have a good day, mate. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Dahlia says, you never continued with my problems in the mozzarella thread. I felt left hanging. Look, Dahlia, my apologies. I only get notified of the first comment on YouTube. That's just the way YouTube works. If I have to go back through 100 comments a day, which sometimes I forget, I'm never going to find it again, unfortunately. Yeah, you're not the only person that sends me questions about cheese making, unfortunately. So if you do have some questions, this is the best forum for it. Yeah, sorry about that, but I'm one person. There are many, many cheesemakers through the world, and they ask me many, many questions. Pretty good for a free service, I think. Anyway, Kim, thank you very much for that link. Peachy Poo says, hey, Gavin, I'm new to cheese making and made my first kefili. It's in the cheese cave maturing. Do you use your freezer to mature cheese, and how do you keep it frost-free? Good question. So I actually do use the freezer compartment in my bar fridge, which has so that's what the refrigerant goes through to make the fridge cool. So it's one of those typical bar or dorm fridge, which has a little, well, it used to have a flap until I ripped it off, at the front of a little icebox section. Now that stays cooler than what the rest of the fridge does. So that's normally around 7 degrees Celsius, between 7 and 8, and the rest of the fridge is between 11 and 13. So I mature the bulk of the cheeses down the bottom, and at the top part, I mature the bloomy rinds. So things like the bloomy goat blue, even blue rind, blue cheeses. I put what was it called? The farmhouse cheddar blue. Put that up there. When I'm doing camembert, I put it up there to ripen, and then I transfer it once it's wrapped in the paper, the micro perforated wrap. Then I put it into the normal fridge. So yes, I do use that section, but I don't use my freezer, if that makes sense. So just that little part in the cheese fridge. Malcolm says, hi, Gavin. I recently made 2 cheddars, both the same quantities and procedure, but different milk. One of them has been vac packed. The other couldn't be cheddared. Can I vac pack it and hope for the best? The other couldn't be cheddared. One of them has. Okay. Well, can I vac pack and hope for the best? Yes. Yes, you can. It'll probably turn out more like a farmhouse cheddar. The texture will be less crumbly. So try that. Lancer says, you guys both rock. Bob Ross of Cheese and his lovely producer. Thanks very much. Yes, Bob Ross of Cheese Making. I've been called that a few times. Maybe it's the voice or the tone. People do like to listen. I've found this strange. People do like to listen to some of the longer videos to chill out. And I suppose they learn how to make cheese in the process. So that's what happens. Um, Bay says, can you give me the complete procedure of all something cheese and recipes? I really, well, I'd love to learn how to make cheese. Just follow the videos. It's not that hard, honestly. Cheese is cheese. Once you've mastered your first one, it's just a variation on a theme, which you've probably seen many times. Okay, Swifton says, I really enjoy the process of making cheese. My first cheese, as each step seemed to work as per your very informative video. Thanks, Swift. The only problem is that I think I have the bug and I'm now looking for a fridge to turn into a cheese cave. Good thing is there's so many second-hand bar fridges out there, or even kitchen fridges. People seem to go through them like they're going out of style. But all you need is an external thermostat to control the temperature down fairly low, and you're laughing, really. So there's always a fridge around. Just ask around. There's a lot of buy, swap, and sell groups on Facebook that you see people trying to even just giving away fridges because they bought another one and, they don't want any money for it. So turn into a cheese cave. Must be something like that around there. Okay. Carol says she's so jealous because hurricane season is here in Central Florida. So I'm only making fresh cheeses. Better than no cheese. Indeed it is, Carol. And it wasn't until, probably 2 years into my cheese making journey that I actually ventured into making fresh cheeses because I didn't think much of them. Maybe it's just because I'd eaten so many crappy commercial cheeses, fresh cheeses, that I didn't know that once you made your own, they're amazing and they just blow your mind. So, so I do make fresh, especially cream cheeses, sherv, goat's milk, cream cheese, basically. And ricottas and stuff like that. And the flavor's just amazing. Much better than the rubbish that you buy in the supermarket. And same as, when you make cream cheese for a cheesecake, instead of using those little silver foiled packaged ones from Kraft, the cream cheese that you make yourself, just it takes your cheesecake to another level. It's up here, right up here somewhere. But you know what I mean. Okay. Kitty Cat says, is there a lipase substitute that's not made from animal product? I've never found a good vegetarian rennet, not rennet, lipase solution. They all taste a bit weird. So we do stock, as you probably know, pre-gastric lipase. I think they take it from the first stomach of the animal instead of the fourth, which is for rennet. But what you can do, and I've done this before, is if you use cow's milk as a recipe, add and you using a 10-litre batch, then swap out 2 litres of that cow's milk and put in 2 litres of goat's milk, and you'll get the same desired effect. You'll get that piquant flavour that you find in those, hard Italian cheeses or cheeses that you need for that have that lipase piquant flavour. Just swap it out with goat's milk and you'll find you won't have any troubles because there's a lot more lipase in goat's milk than there is cow's milk. In fact, in cow's milk, there's hardly any at all because pasteurisation kills that protein off. So hopefully, kitty cats, that helps you. Carol, thank you so much for that super chat. I was wondering what I was up to. Thank you so much. Yes, fresh cheeses do rock. I love them. Where I'm up to. Bay says how to make mozzarella. Yep, there's a good recipe for mozzarella. Kim, if you can put the link up for traditional mozzarella, or real mozzarella, I've called it, I think, on the YouTube channel, and that'll help out Bay. Hauke, g'day, how are you? Have you considered making Haas roller, also called hand case? It's very strong and smelly and gets translucent I guess it's ripened with bacteria, but I don't know much. Well, I'll put it on the list and I'll do some research and have a look. I've probably got a recipe for hand K's, or better known as Haas roller. I'll check. If I can find a recipe for it, I can make it, I reckon. Whether it tastes the same as the cheese that it's supposed to be, then who knows. But anyway. Okay. Thanks for that suggestion. David says, so many thanks. I've made a lot of cheese now, blues, camemberts, Port Salut, Parmesan, cheddars. I've stopped now as I can't seem to keep the hard cheese clean of mold. I need a backpack. I made a few other cheeses from starters. What do you think about that method? It seems to have worked for me. I appreciate your channel and so much you've given me a hobby for life. Yeah, it is a bit like that, isn't it? I'm addicted personally. So, even if I didn't make all these videos, um, I would still make cheese just about every week just because I like it so much. It's something that it doesn't go away. And thanks for that link there, Kim. Yeah, so yeah, you do really either waxing or backpacking. It's the only way you're going to keep the mold off, unfortunately. And you find that in most commercial factories these days that make cheddar style cheeses or any of the other ones, the cheddar type cheeses, or any hard or semi hard, they're all vac packed, except for a lot of the European stuff, which is, rind ripen and they just wipe it every day, or they scrub it with a brush, or have robots that do it in the type of like Parmigiano Reggiano. Every one of those cheeses is rubbed every day by a robot. Bit kinky, I think, but that's just how they do it because they're so heavy. And yeah, anyway, I think I covered that in a podcast episode recently where Parmesan was getting stolen from cheesemakers, and there's a big black market for it apparently. Yeah, there's a bit of chitty chat going on around controllers on eBay. Yep, they're really good. There's actually a Chinese brand that you can pick up for about $20, or 25. I think I sell it for 25. And it's called Locks 15. I don't know if that's the brand name or whatever, but that's the one that's running my cheese fridge, and it seems to be no issues at all. Okay, Zane's got a question after Carol's lovely donation. Thank you so much. Anybody else wants to do it, have a go. There's a super chat, there's a little dollar sign down there. That's how you do it. Anybody wondering? No pressure. Zane says, Gavin, what percent is your calcium chloride solution that you add to the standard brine, please? I'm trying to make my own, seeing I live in a standard location. So the calcium chloride solution, we buy it pre-made, but if you're going to buy powdered stuff, then it's 30% by weight. So if you're going to make, say, 100 mils, then you use, which is water is 100 grams, then it's 70 grams of water and 30 grams of calcium chloride, and that'll make your 30% solution. So that'll work fine. And then just give that a good mix and it all dissolves, and then you're right as rain. Away you go. Now you can buy calcium chloride. I think Ball make it or package it, and it's also packaged in a name they call it pickle crisp. So they add calcium chloride to jars of pickles to make the cucumbers crispy when you crunch on them. If you're into preserving and that sort of stuff, then you will actually see calcium chloride comes in a powdered form, so you can use that. And like I said, mix it as a ratio 30% solution. Okay. Christian says, do you prefer sheep or goats? Well, none. I'm not from New Zealand. Sorry, that's just a joke. Sheep or goat's milk, if that's the question, or I don't know. They're both different and they're both amazing. So sheep's milk is a lot richer than what goat's milk is. Goat's milk's richer than what cow's milk is. and goat's milk has a particular, as somebody said on the chat last week, a goaty flavour. So, which it does. It has a flavour of its own, and so does cheese made with sheep milk. Um, Even the ricotta salata, or the pecorino ricotta salata that I made, I had some leftover whey from a pecorino romano that I made that's still aging. It's going to age for about 10 months. Still in the cheese cave. The Even the ricotta that I made out of it was just absolutely to die for. The flavour was just amazing. But I managed to get my hand on some raw milk, which I pasteurise using the low temperature long hold. So there we go. Sinjean says, I tried making my first cheddar after a number of awesome cheese successes, but the pH never went down. I figure I had a bad batch of mesophilic. Any way to check if a culture is bad before making it? There's a couple of things that I check for. Is the packet still sealed? If it's gone clumpy and yellow into a gluggy mass, then it's just had freezer burn, so don't use it. They're the only ways I know of testing without actually having a lab to know if they're breeding. Yeah, they're breeding and multiplying. So, yeah, there's some of the things I avoid. In fact, some of the single-use sachets that I've used have actually been the seal has been breached, and you get this gluggy little yellow mess in the bottom of the packet. It's not powder anymore. So yeah, if you get that, don't use it. It's dead as a doornail. That's the only problems I've ever had with those DVI cultures. Ewan, g'day from New Zealand. G'day to you. Is that MP? I think I have access to fresh cow's milk from my uncle's farm. What would be a good beginner cheese to make? Ooh, one from one that I would make. Give it a go anyway. Would be a Caerphilly. It's ready in 3 weeks. It's heavily salted sort of cheese, but salt doesn't penetrate all the way to the centre. So you'll find that the rind has a certain flavour, and the paste itself is smooth and creamy, really nice. So try Caerphilly. There's a video tutorial somewhere. I dare say Kim will find it. If you can find the link for Caerphilly for me, honey, that would be absolutely fantastic. Sathaya says, what type of cheese would you recommend to a beginner? Same question. I would try, if you want to make a semi-hard or hard cheese, try Caerphilly. If you want to make a soft cheese or a cheese that you want to eat the same day, then try ricotta, paneer, halloumi. Yeah, there's some good recommendations. If you get your hand on goat's milk, make some sherv. If you've only got cow's milk, then make cream cheese. So those cheeses are all nice and quick, and will satisfy your curiosity for cheese making, and then probably you'll be bitten by the cheese making bug and want to make lots more cheese, of course. Okay, 15 minutes to go. We'll keep going. Geordie says, why do we dilute the rennet and calcium chloride before adding it to the milk? A damn good question. We dilute the rennet particularly because if we add it to the pot without being diluted, there's a tendency for it to act straight away on a small piece of the milk, and you get a blob and it doesn't distribute through evenly. So that's the reason you do that. And with the calcium chloride, if you add that straight to the milk, you'll do the same sort of thing, but it'll make a certain bit of the milk bitter. So that's why we dilute it down and stir it through so it gets fully incorporated into the milk. So, however, I have seen lots of cheese making videos. I've been watching season 4 of Cheese Slices, which is done by Will Studd. Great guy, very passionate about his cheeses. And I noticed that when they're adding rennet to big, large vats of milk, they do add a lot of water to the rennet, and for that very reason, they don't want to get a big lump of strong rennet hitting the milk all at once. They want to distribute it throughout the milk. Okay. Kitty Cat says, wish she had access to fresh milk. Me too, but I think I get pretty good deal from Inglenook Dairy. They're not a sponsor. They just provide me with free milk for my cheese making, just for a quick mention during a video. So quite happy with that to get about, what is it, nearly $25 worth of milk at the price that it's sold at on the market to make all these lovely cheese making videos with. So yeah, that's good fun. And it is good milk. Some of the best you can buy that's not raw, as far as I'm concerned. The milk fat is always higher than what's on the label. So, yeah, it's very good. And Dylan, good to see you on here. How often do you run out of homemade cheese and have to start resorting to the store-bought stuff? Well, Kim's got a particular craving, and yes, I don't know if I should air this, of course. She has a particular craving for, and yeah, I'm shaking my head as I'm saying it, for processed single slice cheeses. You know, it's like criminal. Personally, we do buy a lot of bloomy rind cheeses because it's so, well, it takes up a lot of space in the cheese fridge, for one, seeing I've got so many different cheeses in there. The containers for the bloomy rind cheeses take up the room of two other cheeses. So we tend to buy a lot of our bloomy rind cheeses. But we've always got some cheddar style on hand to eat and add to the cheese platter. So there's always at least one, if not two or three, of my own homemade cheeses when we have a cheese platter. And that farmhouse cheddar blue, I tell you, we've still got a little bit we're saving, but we've been having a little bit nearly every night for supper. And it just gets better and better every time I eat it. It's just an amazing cheese. Good question, Dylan. Well done. Rolux says, I have the home cheese making in Australia book by Valerie Pearson. Is there another Australian cheese making book I should buy? Well, of course there is. There's mine. Keep Calm and Make Cheese, the beginner's guide to cheese making at home. I can't recommend it highly enough. In fact, I know the author. He's a really good bloke. So yeah, if Kim will put the link to that up at the end of the show. Swifton says, I tried Bel Paese for my first and then whey ricotta the same day. It's a great first cheese to try if you want to make something that you don't need a cheese fridge for. Okay, Montana says, do you know if you will make more Drunken cheeses? Yeah, look, I was gonna, when I first started that cheese, I wanted to make a goat's version, which is called Drunken Goat, of course, instead of just Drunken cheese. And the supermarket had no goat's milk; they were all sold out. So I got some unhomogenized milk, and away I went, and I made Formaggio Ubriaco, which is that version. So that's probably the only other Drunken cheese that I'll try. I'm thinking of doing some port-infused cheddar, so really dark red port, and soak the cheese curds in that and then press them together. I've heard that's really good. Also some ale-washed cheeses. So make something like in a reblochon style and then wash it with a dark ale. That's a good one to try. So, all right, so I was lying. I'm going to make some more. So that'll be cool. Thanks for the question, Montana. Hawkey says, I'm fine, thanks, but be aware that hand case is not for the faint-hearted. But at least the smell, but the taste is really good. I think that's the same for all those sorts of wash rind cheeses. You know, they do really stink out the cheese fridge. And I remember one stage I had two ripening in the cheese fridge at once. And when you open the door, oh my God, the whole house stunk. So it's just that stench, the that those cheeses ripening put off. You know, it's just amazing. And you could tell when I opened up a ripening box that had one of those cheeses in it, and it was even worse. My goodness, I tell you what. So the brick cheese that I'm making at the moment, it's actually a very quick. It's just starting to get orange rind on it now. That I made. I think I put the video up last week, but I already had it ripening for a week, so it's been going for 2 weeks now. Just starting to get an orange bloom on it, but it doesn't smell as bad as what I remember the other ones used to. So we'll see how that goes. Um, Kim says, "Shame on." Oh no, shame on Kim. I have not bought any in ages. Lol. You just don't make enough cheese. Oh, thanks. I tell you what, I'd have to be pumping out cheese every single day to keep up with you, Kim. That's a joke. Yes, okay, Kim, she's forgiven. I did slightly over exaggerate. Yes, all right. She might have one of those a week, a slice in one of those yucky things. Anyway, um, Kitty Cat says I want to try some cheese with stout added. Yeah, that would be pretty good. Carol's highly recommending my book. Thank you very much, Carol. I appreciate it. Kim's put the link into the book, which is absolutely fabulous. And Kim's favourite cheese is Colby to buy. But that's only because Gavin's homemade cheese is too good to use for cooking, so she uses Colby for recipes. Yes, she does. And the Colby she buys is a fairly good one. I think it's Mainland, which is a New Zealand cheese making company. I think it's made by Fonterra. Yeah, it is a nice cheese. I must admit that one's not a plastic cheese. Um, but we do grate it and put it into all sorts of cheese recipes when I don't have anything other to use because, like Kim says, it's too good for cooking. Some of the cheese is. Anyway. Kim says it's out of stock. Oh, the book. I better make some more tomorrow. So I'll bind some tomorrow for everybody. But there is an ebook version. If you go to that same link and search around, you'll find that there anyway. Okay, looks like we've run out of questions, unless anybody's got a couple more. David says, anything with Brevibacterium linen stinks. Yes, it does. Don't you worry about that. The book is getting so much praise. Thank you very much. It was actually I think it was the 6th book I actually wrote, but being the first cheese book. And it's been a long time between drinks, I tell you. I made that one nearly 6 years ago. I've updated it 2.3 times, I think. Yeah, it's pretty good. Charles says, any cheese I can make using fresh spicy peppers. Look, I would stick to fresh cheeses, Charles. I found that if your spices aren't dried out and then like rehydrated, they tend to rot in the cheese and give very bad off flavors. That's why you'll notice when I made the triple pepper jack, the chili flakes were dried beforehand, and then I put them in some liquid and then made it from there. But if you're going to use fresh chilies, then I highly recommend fresh cheeses. So like cream cheese, and then mix it through, make like a cheese ball out of it or something like that, which is pretty cool. Malcolm says, what is the best vinegar for ricotta and what to avoid? The best, I've used cider vinegar. That works really well, but it gives you a very fine curd, but it keeps the paste nice and smooth. White vinegar is a bit of a pain because it tends to over acidify the ricotta and it turns straight away. It doesn't kind of like wait to consolidate the curds. So apple cider vinegar is my go-to vinegar for doing that. Any cheese that you could try next? Yeah, try feta. Even if you can't get your hands on goat's milk, well, if you can from the store, that'd be fantastic. Two types. So there's a Danish feta that they sell here in Australia, which I think is cow's milk, and it's really smooth and creamy. And then there's traditional feta. That's the Greek AOC one, which is 70% sheep's milk and 30% goat's milk, or you can make a Bulgarian feta, which is just about either 100% goat's milk or 100% sheep's milk. So try that. You can eat it within at least a week, just of maturing in the brine, and even better if you leave it longer. But yeah, it's a simple cheese to make. Doesn't need much pressing, not much stirring as well. Okay, 5 minutes to go. Last few questions. David said, I got my Brevi from Fonterra. For several months they had a contamination of Brevi, and I got mine for cream cheese that was being thrown. Oh, cool. So you cultivated, I suppose, that Brevibacterium linens. Dylan says, what do you think of the idea of pumpkin spiced cheese? You'd only be able to do that. I know you can buy that pumpkin in a can stuff there in the US. We can't buy it here. You'd only add it to fresh cheeses because it'd rot. Rabbit Slayer David says, I bought Keep Calm and Make Cheese, and I am not patiently waiting for volume 2. I'm going to be working all weekend on it, mate. Don't worry about that. So hopefully I'll come up with, it'll be at least 2/3 finished. We'll go from there. Kitty Cat says, thanks for your cheesy wisdom. Learned a thing or two. Thank you very much. All right, we'll wrap it up now. Thanks, everybody, for jumping onto the live stream and continuously answering me questions, which is absolutely fabulous. Without you guys here, there wouldn't be a show every week because there'd be no questions to answer. And unfortunately, sometimes I can't get to everybody's questions. But this week I managed to, which is fantastic. Raymond says, I love your book, and I'm wondering, do you have or ever had going to make a Maltese pepper cheese? I know a bloke who knows a bloke. That's me. One of my local cheese-making friends, Charlie, who's been on the chat, he makes a Maltese pepper cheese, and apparently it's quite wicked. So I'll see if I can get the recipe from him. I think he gave it to me once. I've got it somewhere here. I'll have to hunt it down. But, yeah, that'd be good. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. If you want to support me on Patreon, Kim's just put the link up there. Little as $1 a month helps the show keep going. But that'd be cool. And if you want to buy any kits or supplies or equipment, then there's always littlegreenworkshops.com.au, which Kim and I both run and sell cheese making equipment, as I said there. Now, if you want any fabulous t-shirts or cups or goodies like this, certified curd nerd, that sort of thing, it's over at I've got a cafe press store, cafepress.com.au, or just cafepress.com/cheesemantv. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time, as always. There's our store. There's the link. Thank you, all of you curd nerds, for turning up. All right, until next Wednesday, we'll see you later. Well, g'day, curd nerds. G'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds.